Have you ever witnessed that man? The one who walks into a room and seems to own it, not through arrogance, but through an almost unnerving stillness. He doesn't demand attention, yet he commands it. He moves with a quiet economy of motion, his gaze direct, his smile rare but devastatingly authentic when it appears. There is a common assumption about this man, a narrative we have all been taught. We believe he is the ultimate player, the master of a game so subtle we cannot even see the rules. We think his confidence is a weapon, his charm a strategy, and his heart a fortress made of conquests and casual goodbyes. We have been told that this is the pinnacle of masculine power, a man who wants nothing because he can have anything. But what if I told you that this assumption, this entire narrative, is profoundly, fundamentally wrong? What if the truth is not about a game he has mastered, but about a war he has survived, and that his power comes not from what he can take, but from what he has finally learned to give himself? The reality is far more intricate, far more psychological, and infinitely more challenging than a simple story of seduction. It is a story of disillusionment, of awakening, and of a radical, terrifying transmutation of the self. Stay with this, because the journey we are about to embark on is not about learning tricks to attract, but about understanding the alchemical process that turns a boy chasing validation into a man who embodies presence. It is a path that begins with a single, devastating realization that shatters everything he thought he knew about himself, about desire, and about the very nature of connection. This journey begins not in a moment of triumph, but in a moment of profound emptiness. It begins after another conquest, another successful night, another validation secured. He is alone, the silence of his apartment louder than the lingering scent of perfume. He has won. He has proven his worth once more. So why does he feel a hollowness so vast it threatens to swallow him whole? This is the fertile ground of crisis, the sacred wound through which the light begins to enter. For this man, the catalyst is not another person, but a single sentence that he stumbles upon, perhaps late at night, scrolling through the digital void. A sentence from the renowned psychologist Carl Jung, a man who mapped the labyrinth of the human soul. And the sentence reads, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, fate." He freezes. The word echoes in the hollow chamber of his chest. He had always thought of his life as a series of choices, of victories, of a fate he was forging with his own two hands. His fate was to be desired, to be successful, to be the one who leaves, never the one who is left. But Jung's words present a terrifying alternative. What if his choices were not choices at all? What if they were compulsions? What if his fate was nothing more than a script, written by a part of himself he refused to see? This is the intellectual frame for his collapse, and for his eventual rebirth. The concept of the shadow, Jung's term for the repressed, unknown, and disowned parts of our own psyche. For this man, the shadow is not some dark monster. It is his own vulnerability. It is his deep, unacknowledged terror of being insignificant. It is the small boy inside him who learned, long ago, that affection was conditional, that love was a prize to be earned through performance. His entire life, the persona he has so meticulously constructed, the charmer, the conqueror, the untouchable man, is not a testament to his strength. It is a defense mechanism. It is a brilliant, elaborate, and utterly exhausting cage designed to keep his own shadow locked away. And the key to that cage, the thing that has just been slipped into his hand, is the chilling realization that the master of the game has been its most obedient pawn all along. Before this moment, his life was a meticulously curated highlight reel. He lived in the external for the external. His identity was a mosaic of reflections in other people's eyes, primarily the eyes of women. Each spark of attraction he ignited was a small confirmation. I exist. I am worthy. I am powerful. He did not seek partnership. He sought validation. He did not crave intimacy. He craved impact. Love, to him, was not a state of being but a transaction. It was an economy of desire where he was determined to always maintain a surplus. He had become an expert at speaking a language he did not truly understand. He could say the right things, make the right gestures, create an intoxicating illusion of depth and connection because he was a masterful mimic. He had studied the form of love, but had never inhabited its essence. He was a collector of moments, not a builder of worlds. His past is a gallery of beautiful, hauntingly similar ghosts. Women who were, in many ways, mirrors of his own state. Women who were also seeking validation, who believed that being chosen by a man like him would somehow complete a part of themselves that was missing. It was a silent, unconscious contract between two halves, each believing the other held their wholeness. And so, the relationships, if they could be called that, followed a predictable, soul-crushing script. The intense beginning, the thrill of the chase, the performance of vulnerability, his and hers. Then, the inevitable moment when the illusion would begin to crack. The moment when real intimacy was required, when the masks had to come off, when the raw, unpolished, needy parts of the self began to show. This was his signal to retreat, because true intimacy, to the unconscious man, feels like death. It is the death of the persona, the death of control, the death of the game he knows how to win. The toxic dynamic he perpetuated was one of perpetual hunger. He kept himself hungry for the next validation, and he was drawn to women who were hungry for a savior, for an answer, for a man to fill their own emptiness. He would offer them crumbs, just enough to keep them hoping, just enough to keep their adoring gaze upon him, feeding the fragile ego he mistook for a solid self. He was a master of the almost relationship, the king of the gray area, the architect of beautiful ruins. And he called it freedom. He called it being realistic. He called it fate. The awakening is not a gentle dawn. It is a violent earthquake that fractures the very foundation of his reality. That one quote from Jung becomes a mantra of self-incrimination. Until you make the unconscious conscious, he begins to look back, not with nostalgia or pride, but with the cold, unforgiving eye of a detective investigating a crime scene where he is both the victim and the perpetrator. He sees the pattern. He sees the endless repetition. The same conversations with different faces. The same exhilarating peak followed by the same desolate trough. The same feeling of being utterly alone in a crowded room, or even in an intimate bed. The pain of this realization is acute. It's not the sharp, clean pain of a wound, but the dull, systemic ache of a poison that has been in his system for years. The disappointments, the hollow victories, the string of goodbyes, they stop being individual events and merge into one unbearable symptom of a deep spiritual sickness. This is his turning point. This is the moment he stops running from the emptiness and decides to turn and face it. He descends. He begins the grueling, unglamorous work of turning his gaze inward. This is not a journey of self-improvement, of adding new skills or techniques to his repertoire. It is a journey of excavation. It is a process of unbecoming everything he thought he was, in order to discover who he truly is. He starts to ask the questions he has spent his entire life avoiding. Why do I need a woman's desire to feel alive? What am I so afraid of in the silence of my own company? Who would I be if no one was watching? He faces the ghosts of his past, not just the women he left, but the younger versions of himself. The boy who was praised for his achievements, not his heart. The teenager who learned that vulnerability was weakness. The young man who discovered that a confident facade was the most effective armor. He is not fighting these ghosts. He is listening to them. He is sitting with them in the darkness, allowing their stories to become part of his own, not as sources of shame, but as pieces of a puzzle he is finally solving. He learns to nourish himself with things other than external praise. He finds solace in solitude, strength in reflection. He makes a pact with himself, a quiet, solemn vow made in the dead of night. He will never again trade his soul for an echo. He will never again accept a half-love from another because he will no longer offer a half-self. He is rebuilding his entire operating system, piece by painstaking piece, not from a manual but from the raw data of his own pain. From these ashes, a new man emerges. Or rather, the true man, the one who was buried beneath layers of performance and fear, is finally allowed to breathe. The change is not loud. It is a shift in frequency. His confidence is no longer a performance. It is a presence. It radiates from a place of deep self-acceptance, not from a need for external approval. He has stopped fighting for attention and has started to simply pay attention, both to himself and to others. His very nature has been reforged. He who was once a hunter of validation now becomes a cultivator of connection. This is the new state of being, defined by a series of profound internal shifts that manifest in his external reality. He masters the art of listening. Before, conversations were a strategic game, a series of moves designed to impress, to disarm, to lead to a desired outcome. He listened for openings, for opportunities to insert his own narrative. Now he listens to understand. He listens for the spaces between words, for the truth simmering beneath the surface of a story. He is no longer in a hurry. He offers the rare gift of his undivided presence, creating a space where the person before him feels not just heard, but truly seen. This simple act is more magnetic than any line or calculated gesture he ever used in the past. He becomes fluent in the language of vulnerability. He understands now that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the absolute prerequisite for intimacy. It is the courage to show up and be seen when you have no control over the outcome. He no longer hides his imperfections or his fears. He doesn't broadcast them, but he doesn't deny them. His willingness to be real gives others permission to be real in return, instantly dissolving the superficial games he used to thrive on. He is no longer attracted to the same energy. His internal shift changes his entire field of attraction. The woman who is performing, who is hiding behind her own facade, who is seeking a man to complete her, she no longer registers on his radar. Or if she does, it is with a feeling of gentle compassion, not desire. He feels a kinship with her past self, but not a future. Instead, he finds himself drawn to a different kind of woman entirely. A woman who has done her own work. A woman whose confidence, like his, is quiet. A woman whose eyes hold a story of her own descent and rebirth. A woman who does not need him but who just might choose him. The dynamic is no longer hunter and prey. It is sovereign and sovereign. Two whole individuals exploring the possibility of creating a shared world, not two halves trying to become one. His desire is no longer a craving for a fix, but a deep yearning for a resonant soul. He does not want to conquer a woman's body. He wants to explore the landscape of her mind, to understand the architecture of her heart. The prize is no longer the validation of being wanted. The prize is the rare, sacred privilege of knowing and being known. The world, of course, does not know what to do with this transformed man. He is an anomaly, a disruption to the established social code. His presence generates a strange mixture of admiration and fear, often in the same person. To those still operating in the old paradigm, the world of transactional relationships and ego-based power plays, he is deeply unsettling. His old friends, the ones who are still running the same race he abandoned, see his change as a loss. They might say he's gone soft, that he's lost his edge. They are uncomfortable because his new way of being holds up a mirror to their own emptiness, and they are not ready to look. He shatters the logic of control they live by. Women who are drawn to the archetype of the bad boy or the powerful player find him confusing. They throw out the old bait, the subtle tests, the flirtatious games, and he does not bite. He simply observes them with a calm, discerning presence that is neither judgmental nor indulgent. He doesn't play along. He doesn't react. This lack of reaction is terrifying to someone whose power comes from eliciting reactions. He is rejecting the script, and in doing so, he exposes the flimsy nature of the entire production. He is a threat to the status quo because he demonstrates that there is another way to be. A way that is not based on domination or submission, but on mutual respect and authentic connection. He rejects the lazy, cynical labels the world tries to pin on him. He dismisses the idea that caring deeply is a weakness, that wanting a profound connection is somehow less masculine than wanting a series of shallow encounters. He defies a world that still, in many ways, teaches men to be emotionally constipated, to equate stoicism with strength and vulnerability with failure. His very existence is a quiet rebellion. It's a testament to the fact that a man's greatest power lies not in his ability to conquer the world outside, but in his courage to conquer the world within. He makes people uncomfortable because he is whole in a world that profits from people living in halves, always searching for something outside of themselves to fix the ache within. Ultimately, this man's journey is not about finding the right woman. It never was. It was about becoming the right man. It was about healing his own internal fractures so that he could finally meet another whole person without the desperate, unconscious need to use them as a balm for his own wounds. The love that might come into his life now will be of a completely different quality and texture than anything he has ever known. It will not be salvation. He has already saved himself. It will not be a source of validation. He has learned to validate himself. It will be a celebration. It will be a choice, made freely, by two sovereign beings who see the divine in each other and wish to walk together for a time, to create something beautiful and true in the space between them. His power is no longer about being chosen by many, but about being ready to choose wisely and consciously, just one. This is the final destination of his profound evolution. A state of being where peace is more valuable than passion, where intimacy is more desirable than intensity, and where connection is more sacred than conquest. He did not set out to become this man. He was broken open by life, by a whisper of truth from a long-dead philosopher that became a roar in his own soul. He dared to follow that roar into the darkest corners of his being, and in doing so, he found not a monster, but the quiet, unshakable strength of his own integrated self. And perhaps this story, this journey from a hollow crown to a humble heart, did not find you by accident. Perhaps there is a part of you, a whisper in your own soul, that recognizes the truth in this transformation. If something inside you was touched by this story, if you felt a flicker of recognition in his struggle or his awakening, do not dismiss it. That is the voice of your own unconscious, asking to be made conscious. That is the beginning of your own journey toward wholeness. Let this message keep resonating. Share this video with someone you believe needs to hear it, not out of impulse but out of choice. Like it if you feel the truth in its words. And subscribe to become part of a community dedicated to this deeper exploration of the self. Most importantly, share your response in the comments below. What part of this man's journey resonated with you the most? Your story matters. Your awakening matters. And it begins now.